All right. So the functional human system is a map of, in my opinion, everything we do. Okay. And so far, it has been universal to me. So it started out with basically our five senses: our eye, ears, nose, tongue, and body. So the external stimulus, external inputs comes in through these five senses, and
Mhm.
then it actually gets combined with our thoughts. Okay. And I'll expand this further. So essentially, five inputs coming from external combined with basically an internal thought, and it becomes the internal input into our brain system. Okay. Our entire brain system, I call it the four noble horses because I do feel like our brain, all these four systems are doing their very, very best, okay, to protect us, to make sure we're okay. So all these inputs come in. The first thing it hits is our reptilian brain. And based on the reflex database, okay, it generates commands and allow us to move. So the reflex is, for example, if I'm going to hit a tree, my reptilian brain is going to, instruct me or shoots out commands to say, okay, raise your hands, cover your face, or something like that. Okay. If I didn't have time to do that, the commands will get stuck. Okay. So I see this in the clinic very, very often, people with rigidity on specific body parts. A lot of times that's associated with pending reptilian brain commands that were never ever executed. And then it moves up to our limbic brain, and then based on the trigger database, okay, so all these green boxes are our databases. Okay, these are based on our life, basically, based on our life experiences. So it goes to the limbic brain, and if the inputs somehow, the external inputs or just pure, just internal inputs, this is why we can't sleep at night because we have this loop going on all the time. Um, if somehow these, the inputs matches something that's in the database, it's going to generate emotions. Okay. Emotions like fear, like anxiety, anger, you name it. Okay, all emotions are, in my opinion, are based on triggers. That's why the same exact event, certain people will feel one way, certain people will feel exactly the opposite way. Why? Because they have different internal trigger databases. Okay, so people who have gone through trauma or very pleasant events, right? All these triggers are installed. For example, if we smell, um, pasta or lasagna, right? We have different feelings. Versus if we hear something that rumbles like a bomber, right? Then it's a completely different emotion, right? But for people who have never ever experienced a bombing, the same rumbling sound will not generate panic or rigidity. So to me, it's all based on what we have experienced before and the triggers that were installed. Then it moves up to the midbrain, which doesn't have a database. Okay. Um, and if we truly use it, what we're going to have is the sense of clarity. Okay. Um, Midbrain sits in between the conscious and subconscious. So the ideas or the epiphany or the sense that this is what I'm going to do, um, can be crystal clear, but has nothing behind it. It's like, why do you want to do this? It's like, I don't know. It just feels like it. I have no idea why I want to do this, but this is what I'm going to do. These are often comes out of the midbrain. Okay. It's a heart resonance. It's something that we just resonate with. Then it goes to our left and right brain, and based on um, our knowledge database, basically everything we have learned, everything we were taught, everything that we have been conditioned and believed or anything like that, right? It's in the left and right brain, the database. Okay. And out of it we make judgments. So um, and then the outcome. of all these noble horse, our four brains affects our channels. Okay. So you go to see Brendan or see a acupuncturist, we talk about channels. Essentially, this is, in Western um, medicine, we have fight and flight, right? And we have rest and heal. Um, in Chinese medicine, essentially, we have two more modes. One is sleep mode, the other one is dissociation. Okay. So these modes, and these will affect our body, affect our thoughts. Okay. So when I say affect our body, it basically, affect our immune system, affect our hormonal system, our circulation system, you name it. Okay. Affect our body position, our posture, um, basically everything that I see in the clinic, when somebody has a chronic issue, they have issues in here. They don't just have issues in the body for sure. Okay, because there's a good reason why we have certain posture. If we are fearful, then the shoulders have to come forward, the head has to come forward. The breathing will be shallow. Why? Because we have this internal fear. Okay. And then because what the brains generate can affect through our channels, affect our body and our thoughts, and in turn they can come back in and then restart this loop over and over again. Okay, so this is a feedback loop. Okay, so based on this chart, if we have a certain traumatic experience, for example, my dad used to punish me when I do, when I don't do my homework or when I don't clean up my room, right? Um, then something will be installing here. It's really that easy. Okay. And as I grew up, I work and I do things, and every time my boss asks me to do something, I have this huge sense of resentment. Why? Because my boss, so all the triggers are based on they have three properties. One is they're protective, they're global, and uh, they're protective, they're global. I forgot the next one. Um, but anyway, global means anything that feels like or have the same attributes as my dad, for example. Somebody who is in authority figure, authoritative position that can control, my paycheck or my next meal or whatever, right? That person, if that person give me something that's very, very close to what my dad gives me, it's going to trigger the exact same emotions. Okay. Um, if my dad or my mom somehow betray me or ignore me or abandon me, then I will have this trigger inside as well. Later on, when I have any intimate relationship, even though I want it so badly, at some point I'm going to resist it. I'm going to, chaos will ensue, and because it's reached a point of danger, right? Um, so this diagram essentially takes into account the life experience that we have, takes into account the effect of these life experiences, um, but not permanently, right? It's not permanent because these are databases. If things can be written into the database, they can be transformed into something else. So this diagram is essentially, 5 plus 1, right? So five senses come in plus our thoughts, so that's 5 plus 1. And later on in life, this external stimulus may have long gone, right? Um, you know, a soldier coming back from Iraq, um, you know, 10, 20 years later is still experiencing the exact same thing. The external stimulus is definitely not there, but he's still experiencing the same hypervigilance, nightmares, you name it. Why? Because the body and the thought alone, right, especially the thought itself, can generate this self-feeding infinite loop. I think we covered this. So this basically this is the feedback loop. Okay. So the reptilian brain, this is a separate, right? So reptilian brain goes through the reflex database, generate commands. Okay. All the reptilian brain commands need to be executed. Okay, it doesn't matter when, it doesn't matter where, it just needs to be done. Okay, so if anybody has this pending reptilian brain commands, they've been suppressing for the longest time, they just need to come out. Okay, so in the clinic, this is actually very, very quick, um, provided that the initial steps are are done. So then it goes to the limbic brain, which I call the truth noble horse, okay, because our emotions are always true, okay. Um, you can't fake your emotions, okay. We can suppress it, but we can't fake it. Why? Because things come in, go through the limbic brain, hits the trigger, it will generate that emotion, okay. We can suppress it right away, but still, the triggers are there. So all our emotions are true, okay. The world has taught us that there are positive and negative emotions. That's just absolute untrue. I mean, it's just, to me, it's probably the most terrible thing. Okay. Because all our emotions are true. Why? Because each and every one of us has our own individual experiences in life. Um, so, you know, it's, um, it really saddens me to see people come in and berate their own emotions and want to take this evil part of them out or this weak part of them out or something like that. No, all these emotions are true. Okay. So the sooner we embrace them, the sooner we honor them, um, the sooner we're going to get to the trigger and be able to transform these out-of-date triggers. Then it comes to our midbrain. Okay, midbrain, I call it the vision or vision noble horse. Okay, has no database, just a heart. And what it generates is clarity. Okay, vision needs a guiding principle, a set of guiding principles. Okay, and for me, my guiding principle is loving kindness. There is loving kindness all the time. It's all around us. I have a purpose. And it doesn't say, it's not like, okay, what's your purpose? No, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't need to know, but I know I have one. I may be the smallest blade of grass in the giant, sequoia forest, but I have a purpose. And my purpose can never be denied by anybody. And I have a heart of gold. Anyone has a heart of gold. Okay. Anyone. Okay. It doesn't matter what this person has done or what I have done. Okay. Everyone has a heart of gold that cannot be tarnished, damaged, traumatized, you name it. Okay. It's always there. And I have a choice. I always have a choice. The choice is always mine. Okay. The moment I give up my choice, I become a pure victim. And the victim has no power. Um, so having that choice, right? It doesn't matter in what condition to say I have a choice to do this or I have a choice to do that. To me, is paramount to my well-being. So what the heart or the vision, okay, the midbrain and the heart, when it works well, we'll be doing what's most empowering at the present time instead of doing what's right. Okay. Um, This to me is probably the biggest paradigm shift. Okay, instead of doing what's right, what we're taught, what we believe in, and da da da, right? We do what's most empowering now. What does that mean? That means we do something right now which we feel most empowering. If we don't feel like there's anything empowering to do right now, we just don't do anything. And the next moment, in 10 minutes, if we feel like the most empowering thing to do right now is something different, then we just change. So all of a sudden, to me, this is the very definition of freedom. We're not committing to something. We're not like, okay, because I made a promise and then I have to keep it for the rest of my life. Things change, right? And what's most empowering back then may not be what's most empowering right now. So our heart, this midbrain and our heart, with all its power, is to me is purely its function is to do what's most empowering. It's not to do what's right, because what's right is in the database, is in the moral code that we learned or being, drilled and conditioned. Okay. So left and right brain, which is very, very powerful, okay, incredibly powerful. The whole world, since kindergarten is basically to educate our left and right brain and says all the other brains are useless, okay? Don't trust your emotion, stop, dreaming or hoping or, use your heart, having, all these so-called intuition, right? Don't trust them, right? Trust what? Trust knowledge, trust what's being taught, right? So we have all these morality things and what's right and what's wrong, which side is evil, which side is angelic. Um, and through these, we make judgments. Okay. So to me, all truths are true. If you believe in something, it's true to you. There's nothing more to say. People will say, no, my religion is the only truth. If uh, to me the biggest differentiator of religion is is depends on where one is born. If you're born in this country, you are this religion. If you're born, 500 miles east, you being another religion, and both believe they're the tr only truth in the world. So all truths are true until one changes it. Okay. Um, so people will ask like, okay, if all truth are true, then what is really true? When we do not judge the other person to say, okay, what you're doing is wrong, we have an opportunity to communicate, and through communication, we can share what's true to us and listen to what's true to others, and then we make our own decisions. We make our choices, right? We do what's most empowering at the time. To me, the because the left and right brain does have this what they call confirmation bias, right? Confirmation bias means whatever we believe, we tend to confirm it and believe it further, right? Um, so if we don't have this confirmation bias, then we're all open people, right? Um, and do everything 100% for ourselves. Okay, to me, this is one of the biggest changes in my life is I stopped helping. I stopped sacrificing for my family, for example, for others, to help somebody at work, to help my company, for example. To me, that's just, it doesn't make any sense anymore. Okay. Because to me, help is the mother of all injustice. So that's basically the four brain system. And this is the suffering loop. Okay. So things come in, right, establish these triggers, and we don't go through our midbrain. So we have and all we have is judgment, and it um, get us into fight and flight or dissociation, affect our body, affect our thoughts, and it just keep looping. This never stops. Okay. And I see this so often in PTSD, I see this so often in addictions. So the epiphany loop is very simple. Okay, it's just to activate our midbrain, and I'll explain this a little bit further down there. Okay, and ideally, once we go, most people have gone through this suffering loop quite a bit, and once they experience this epiphany loop, they can engage in life in this vibrant loop, which uses all four brains. Okay, so how do we activate the midbrain, the vision? Okay. So to me, So far, I think the only equality that I've found in this whole world is we all have parents. Other than that, I haven't found anything that we can say we are equal with. Okay. So since we all have parents, then let's do it. Let's truly, truly use our parents, right? We can connect to our parents. If we can connect to our parents without um, space and time limitation, then we're activating our midbrain. Okay. So the way to do this is, first of all, fully in our body. Okay. What does that mean? That means um, we're not dissociated. Okay. So in practice, I ask people to elevate very, very, very slightly their perineum. Okay. Um, which is basically um, the deepest part of our body, right? The most sacred part of our body, if you want to say that, right? The most dirty part of our body, if you want to, if people think that way, right? But it's part of our body. So if we can very gently elevate our perineum, extremely gently, and really honor that part of our body, throw away all the preconceptions of that part of our body because it's part of our body. And we just stay with it. Okay. Honor it, embrace every part of our body, every part of us. Okay, that's what I mean to be fully in the body. We're not trying to get out of this flesh anymore, this suffering, painful, or anything, this body that I don't want. No, this is the only body we have. Okay, so fully in the body. Okay, stay, elevate the perineum ever so slightly for 5 seconds, 10 seconds until we feel this connection, until, there's a tingling sensation throughout the entire body. Then we're fully associated. Okay. Then from our heart, have this whisper or normal voice or shout or curse. I have a purpose. A lot of people give up the sense of purpose. They're surviving. They're waiting for something to happen. No, take this back. Have this sense of courage. I have a purpose. I don't need to know what it is, and nobody can tell me whether I have one or not because I know I have one. I have a purpose will actually invoke a sense of anger. Okay. Anger is a pure emotion. What we don't want is angry, which is anger plus judgment. The pure anger is the basis for courage, for bravery, for everything we ever want. For us to thrive, we need the sense of anger. Okay. And to me, nothing invoked that more than I have a purpose. So I have a purpose. Okay. And then through our third eye, we connect to loving kindness. Okay. What is loving kindness? I honestly don't know. Okay. It's just an idea. It's just something that I trust in. Okay. Every time I connect to loving kindness, I just feel my energy is completely different than when I don't. Okay? So connect to loving kindness. And do not equate loving kindness to God, to Buddha, to whatever. Okay. Just the thought. I connect to loving kindness without judgment. Okay. Without the need to know what it is. Okay. Because that will actually activate our midbrain, which doesn't need any reason, any excuse, or anything that's physical or not physical. Okay. And then through loving kindness, connect to the heart of gold of mom or dad. For some people, this may be extremely, extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. Why? Because they have set up so much protections against their mom and dad. Okay. Why so much protection? Because we all want to be intimate. We all want to be loving our parents unconditionally. We all want our parents to love us unconditionally. But at the same time, it didn't go well. And every time it didn't go well, we felt we will feel this enormous amount of pain. So a lot of us walking around continue to suffer because we have this conflict within us. On one side, we want to connect unconditionally. On the other side, we don't. We cannot. We shall not because it hurts so much. But it hurts so much, it's all about judgment. So for this practice, let's connect to our mom and our heart and our dad's heart of gold and just connect to them without any condition. If we have any emotions or any physical sensation or anything that comes up, allow them to come up. Welcome them, honor them, embrace them. Okay? Until we have somewhat of a firmer connection. And then from our heart, through our chest, through our throat, you can whisper or shout or whatever you want to do, but you got to say this with a voice. Mom or dad, I love you unconditionally. Mom, dad, I love you unconditionally. Do this for at least a minute. Allow everything that needs to flow, flow. Eventually you'll calm down. Eventually you'll feel very, very different. Okay. So this is the midbrain path. This is the epiphany loop. So within that very simple exercise, which we, honestly, in my clinic, everybody does this, and the results are just unreal. Okay. Why? Because we activate our midbrain. And the ensuing peace and calm, um, it's just there because that's what our midbrain generates, peace and calm, the sense of connection without reason, with no condition. Our parents may be long gone. It doesn't matter because unconditional connection across, has no space and time limitation. So in summary, okay, so this is what I go by in the clinic and in my daily lives. Okay, all truths are true. I do what's most empowering at the moment. All my emotions are true. If I have any pending reptilian brain commands, I will clear them. And I do everything 100% for myself. I don't do anything for anybody. I don't help because it's not possible. If anybody can help another person, the world wouldn't be like this. Okay? All transformations come from within. And the last is we all have parents. And if we honor and practice this, just unconditional connection, we'll be fine. You know, to me, that's the very foundation of our sense of safety. If we have any issue with our parents, our life will not be safe. Okay. All right, that's the presentation. I'm gonna turn off the recording.